Good afternoon. It's great to be back in Okaloosa County, and it's great to be here at Ruckel Middle School. I want to thank Richard Corcoran, our Commissioner of Education, for being with us. Also want to thank Marcus Chambers, Superintendent of Schools. And I'm also happy that we've got some great folks here with us here today to talk about Florida doing away with the FSA and moving to a progress monitoring system, which is really exciting. So we have Jessica Landry, fifth grade teacher here here in Okaloosa County at one of the other elementary schools, who's the Okaloosa Teacher of the Year. So welcome. Thank you so much. We also have Catherine Card, who's the parent of two children, seventh and fifth. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then we have Kyra Donahue, mother of 5 children ranging from ages 13 to 24? Okay, so welcome and thank you for being here. And so they're going to provide the perspectives from both educators and parents about going to a system of progress monitoring. I mean, as most of you know, Florida's had a system that's changed a little bit, but more recent years, the F.A.S.T. I know it's gone by different iterations, and it is something that a lot of effort goes into it, a lot of time goes into it, and not just the time it takes to actually test, but then a huge amount of time that goes into the preparations of that. We also have been able to see over these last few years in particular, but certainly since the pandemic, the ability to really use more modern tools to be able to, yes, measure progress and measure achievement, but also be able to remediate where we may not be doing as well. And one of the things with the FSA is you would go end of the year, everything would mobilize for that, you'd do it, and then if a student fell short in something, the school year is over. So how are you going to be able to rectify that? And so we believe a system of progress monitoring where you have more streamlined periodic assessments would be much more student, parent, and teacher friendly. Also, what we're proposing to do is going to reduce the amount of time dedicated to assessments by 75%. So we really believe that having more time for learning is going to be beneficial for our students and the parents, and I think obviously the teachers. They want to teach and not necessarily just be test preparation proctors. So this is something that's that we think is really exciting. Also, we look at the technology and the ability to customize some of these assessments to each individual student. It really isn't one size fits all. You can get results in real time, and different areas of remediation obviously are not going to be the same for each individual student. This provides a system where you can get real-time feedback, and that can then be used by teachers and used by parents to help the students. So we're excited about. We had a great announcement last week. Here we're going to continue the discussion as we lead into the next legislative session, but this will be a big priority for us in terms of our agenda, and the legislature's actually meeting for committee week this week for the first time since the end of last session, so I want to welcome them back to Tallahassee. But this will be something that we're really serious about, and I think we've gotten a lot of great support for it. Before I turn it over to Richard Corcoran, I just would like to recognize that we're also joined by our First Lady, our great First Lady here, my wife Casey, and so I want to thank her for all she's done. She's done a lot on particularly mental health, substance abuse, a lot of issues, and as we've seen, particularly for school-age kids, things like mental health are very significant. So she's done a lot and worked with a lot of our schools and has really made a difference. So we appreciate it very much. And we don't have kids with us today, but I can tell you all of our kids love being in Northwest Florida whenever they get a chance to visit. So I'm going to turn it over to Richard, who's going to be able to talk a little bit more about progress monitoring and the path forward for Florida.
Thanks, Governor. I've said it a bunch of times, and I think everyone would probably agree at this point. We at the department call him the education governor. Every year we have these massive agenda items, you know, from raising the minimum base pay to, you know, almost top 5 in the nation to now ending the FSA and going to our progress monitoring. And really, you know, the governor has said this in the past, we've had conversations over the last 2 years, especially when the pandemic hit, and initially we shut down the rest of the school year. Most kids were on spring break, and then we said don't come back from spring break, and then we went online for the remainder of the school year instead of face-to-face. But it was in that time that we realized most of what we're, from April on, what we're mostly shutting down is testing for the FSA. And then we looked at, over the summer, the progress monitoring results, because we wanted to get a gauge of what did that 6 weeks of loss look like. And we started seeing and having the conversations that, hey, this progress monitoring is really showing us exactly what we need to see. I mean, we're in the modern, we're in 2021, we have, all the technological revolution, we have algorithms for everything under the sun. Certainly we can, as the governor said, we can be smarter, faster, more efficient in getting exactly what we need in accountability, but doing so at 75% less time. And so what we did is, when the first federal money came, the governor said, let's put a bunch of money, tens of millions of dollars we put into putting everybody in the entire state could participate in progress monitoring, so then we would have even more data through the entire school year. And fascinating things happened. One is, we have D and F schools, perpetual D and F schools, and we put them in turnaround because we don't want them to be D and F schools. Well, this last year, when we put that infusion of millions of dollars, we had 55 schools in the last academic year, which I would say is the most difficult academic year Florida students have ever experienced. We had more quarantining, more kids out, distance learning, everything that was complex and confusing, and yet we had those 55 schools, all of them come out of turnaround in that most difficult academic year. And how did they do it? The biggest thing is they were progress monitoring. They're grab and hold right at the very beginning of the year. They're diagnostically looking at kids. What are their shortcomings? What are their needs? What do they need work on? Then they're doing a mid-year assessment, and then at the end of the year, they're doing the final assessment. And so I just think that when you see those kinds of results, we know two things. Number one is, and I'll always say this, and the governor says it all the time, accountability. Our accountability system is number one in the country, and it has done more to lift academics and school progress in Florida and any state than anything else we've ever done. Before we had accountability, we were in the bottom 5. I know it's terrible, and I shouldn't say this because we're too close, but I used to joke and say, thank God for Mississippi, otherwise we'd be 50. But we were like 49, 48. Now, and you see Mississippi too, in defense of Mississippi, now they've jumped all the way up with accountability. And so now we went all the way up to the top 5. We're number 3 by quality counts, number 3 overall from pre-K to universities and U.S. News and World Report. And our accountability system really has elevated not just all of our academic kids, the people who grew the greatest, that had the greatest growth and outcomes were our low-income kids, our minority kids, and our children with unique abilities. So we got to protect that system, but how do you protect that system, keep that system, and be much smarter, much more efficient, and do something that benefits parents, benefits teachers, benefits ultimately the school children, and getting the great results in the early literacy programs that we're talking about. The governor said, hey, we want to try to get to 90% literacy in 3rd grade. That's a massive increase. But when you get rid of the FSA and you go to a much more streamlined progress monitoring system, I think we're going to get to those just new heights that have never been seen before. So anyway, Governor, is on all things education, we thank you greatly.
No, and thank you. And we've been able to, fortunately, have a lot of really big initiatives. Of course, this past year, we were able to do $1,000 bonuses for all teachers and principals throughout Florida. The year before that, we established the first time to do a big increase in the average minimum salary, and we were able to continue that last year, even in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic, and we're going to continue with the progress there. We've done a lot on American civics, which is really important, particularly for high school students, and we've been very, very strong on vocational education, understanding that 4-year brick and ivy university is one way to succeed, but that's not the only way, and our students in Florida need to have access to things that can build skills and actually probably end up doing better in many respects, depending on the situation. So this builds off that. It's a big reform, but it's something that I think is going to be very well received and is going to make a big difference. So I'll turn it over now to the superintendent here, Marcus Chambers.
Thank you, Governor. And I do want to thank you for your leadership on this initiative. And I will say, here in Okaloosa County, we are very much a proponent of progress monitoring. And this is something that I think is going to be welcome, and I think it's something that is needed. I think about the FSA and tests of the like, in the past, a very high-stakes test. In some districts did progress monitoring, some did not. Those that did not, that FSA, that was the first time to get the data. So getting the data that late in the game is something that schools are not able to make real-time adjustments. Here in Okaloosa, we've been proponents of progress monitoring. We'll continue to do so. But what progress monitoring does for us, it helps us drive instruction, as you know. It helps us with professional development. It helps us make sure that the initiatives that we put in place are going to be things that are really making a difference in the lives of kids. And to be able to have progress monitoring along the way is a game changer. It'll be a game changer across the state, because now we're not waiting towards the end of the year. Now we're not even waiting towards the semester. We're able to make adjustments right in real time, and that's something that I know here in Okaloosa County we're going to be very excited about, and we'll continue to make those efforts for our kids. We know during the pandemic there were losses to academic instruction. Progress monitoring is what helps us get these kids back on track, and it's what's going to help us continue to move forward. So again, I just thank you very much for your leadership.
Great, and thank you. Appreciate all you guys are doing here. You guys have a great school system, and I know the students and parents appreciate it a lot. We're happy to have with us Jessica Landry, who's again the Okaloosa Teacher of the Year. So can you talk a little bit about progress monitoring and how that's worked for you, and how you think that will work for everyone throughout the state if we're able to implement the new system?
Absolutely, and thank you for letting me be here today. So with progress monitoring, it's going to give us the opportunity to meet our students where they are and not expect them to just come in with certain standards. So in my classroom, I have used progress monitoring in the past so that I'm able to individualize my instruction and adjust instructional paths right then and there so that I can intervene with students who need more support. So this is definitely a step in the right direction for that.
And we also have Catherine Card, a parent of two children here in Okaloosa County. So can you talk a little bit about your experience with progress monitoring as a parent?
I would be honored to. So thank you for everything, and thank you for everyone sitting here for your leadership. As a parent, obviously, first and foremost, my children are the absolute priority, and Jenna, to me, is a success story. She is a 7th grader here at Ruckle. And the end of last year, she had come home and she said, my math teacher told me that she thinks that I should take 7th grade advanced math. I said, okay. And I said, is there any more information you want to give me towards that? And she said, no. She said, that's what my math teacher said, and I think I want to do it. I can take this online. So I spoke with her teacher, spoke with the guidance counselor. They told me Jenna's what we consider a high flyer. She's doing extremely well in math. We think she'll do fantastic, and I think this is a good opportunity for her. So I certainly, at the age of 12, would not probably be taking an online math course over the summer, but Jenna did. She was very dedicated to it, and due to, I think, the progress that she was making in the classroom, the teacher recognized this. So now she is a 7th grader sitting in an 8th grade class, and she's feeling challenged, and she, I think, really appreciated having that opportunity to be able to do that. And I think the progress monitoring, it makes sense. I saw stresses, with the testing at the end of the year and the tears, and I think it makes it hard at the end. And with the progress monitoring, even with children that may have some challenges, that you'll identify those deficiencies, being able to remediate, and give them the tools that they need to succeed. So I think it's a win-win for whether you've got a child that's doing really well or some that, might need some help to get back on track.
Great. And we have Kara. So can you talk a little bit about your kids and the experiences that you have and how you think a progress monitoring system would be beneficial?
Yes, so a progress monitoring for my student, I had my son Justice, which was in a 6th grade math class, and just monitoring, seeing where, he's taking these tests and he's getting A's on all of the tests, to where the teacher, sent home, hey, we're watching him, we're seeing where he is, and we're monitoring him. And at the end of that, Justice was able to skip over 7th grade math, and he's all the way into geometry honors as a high school course right now. But that monitoring was able to capture that so that he's not just, in classes that he doesn't need to be in, but he's being challenged to the opportunity of, working ahead, as well as, some of my high school kids. That monitoring was able to say, hey, Ms. Donahue, this child is not where they need to be, so how can we work together and get that child to where it needs to be, and pointing out where the struggle is coming from and identifying just by monitoring, watching, okay, he's struggling with fractions, so let's do this to bring that child up. So it gives a point of a point to where the child needs the help, and we can start a starting point to work and build upon, so that we can work and collaborate together to get that kid to where it needs to be.
Now, how can you explain kind of, because I think people that don't have kids in school, they understand kind of there's testing at the end of the year in Florida, and I understood that obviously, but when Richard was telling me during COVID, like from now on it's pretty much all tests, and I was like, that long? So can you talk about how the schools under the current system have to mobilize all for that end of the year test, and how much time that takes away for learning?
Oh, absolutely. Really start in the February timeframe with guidance counselors and the work that they have to do with our MIS departments, the work that they have to do just to get ready for that 3-month testing timeframe is immense. Then once you get into that 3-month timeframe, the amount of instructional loss that's occurring because kids are coming and going in and out of class. Now you have for literally anywhere from 2.5 months where you don't necessarily have a full class in there. So I'm in a critical class like algebra, or I'm in a critical class like science. And to keep that instructional momentum going the entire time is not only difficult, but almost impossible. So go into this progress monitoring, we're going to get a lot of time back. So we know that it's important to have accountability. We know that it's important to have a summative test at the end, but it's even more important to continue the instructional momentum of teaching and learning along the way. And that's what this is going to do, and it's especially going to give us countless hours of instruction back.
I know you look at where Florida is compared to some of these other states. So if we do a system like this, where would that put us in terms of versus other states? Is there anyone else that's doing this?
You have, there was grants for innovative testing. North Carolina went to somewhat of a progress monitoring, but their phase-in would be long after we do it here on your schedule that you've set. But it's what Superintendent Chambers was saying, and you look at us via other states. When we had all of these other states cancel the end of year their summative tests, but what still went on in all those states, and many of those states, was progress monitoring. One of the big progress monitoring testing groups is called iReady. iReady we looked at their nationwide data, and if you look at the nationwide data during that very difficult year, Governor, we're plus 8 points in math. We're plus anywhere from 4 or 5 points in English above all the other states. So I think, and that's because we had that infusion that you spent with the money that came down from the feds and saying, hey, let's get everyone on this progress monitoring. So I think you're going to see with this move and with all of the investments that you're making in early literacy, I think you're going to see Florida climb to #1 in the rankings.
Great. You have anything else that needs to be said, or how are things going this year?
They're going good. One of the things I do want to emphasize, though, is we're going to be able to show our students their progress with progress monitoring, and they're going to associate their efforts they're putting forward as achievement. And so I think that will boost up that self-esteem and make them feel more confident with their learning.
Yeah, and I mean, just listening to the parents today, progress monitoring, I had kind of thought primarily, and it may be still primarily, but about identifying deficiencies, but it also could be identifying kids that are way ahead of the curve and then being able to get them in maybe a more challenging set of circumstances instead of having them effectively run in place, so to speak, in a class that may not be quite challenging. So I think it works, really well. It seems like on both ends, which should be really, really good. You have anything else? How's the school year this year?
We're happy to be in the classroom. I mean, this is what it's all about. Our kids are learning, they're thriving, and they're doing really well. And it's a testament when both my children say I'm excited to go to school.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of them, and as a parent being in Okaloosa County, we're really blessed, and I wholeheartedly support this initiative.
How did your kids do when they did the remote learning in the spring of 2020?
Jenna did really well with it. She was one of those that can, she can work in a group, she can work on her own, she can work online. That was definitely proven over the summer. Elizabeth, I think she had a little bit more of a struggle, and she held her own, but I could tell that she really missed and embraced being with her teacher and being with her friends.
And so last year, being able to go back to school was good for her?
She was excited, and she's excited this year. The novelty did not wear off. She was happy to be back.
And your kids in K-12, you have middle school and high school?
Yes.
How many are in high school?
So I have 2 in high school and 1 in middle school.
In which high school?
They're at Freeport now, Freeport High School, and then I have my Justice here at Ruckel.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
Well, we think that this is going to be a big deal. We think it'll help a lot of students. We think it's obviously better to give teachers and parents feedback, and this way you're going to be able to respond as the progress is coming or not coming. So we're going to be working really hard on this over the next few months, and hopefully be able to get a big reform passed through. I mean, I think we typically come through in education and end up doing some big things. So we think we're going to be okay on this, but it is important, and I think it'll make a big difference for everyone else. So thank you all for coming, and thanks for what you're doing. And we're happy to take, if anyone has any questions for anybody, we're happy to take a few. We got some school board members here.
Quite a
How are
few.
you guys doing? Yeah. Oh, good. How's the? So I went to the Niceville High School football playoff game. I know they didn't win the state championship. They had a good year. How's it looking this year in Okaloosa? Got good teams? Yeah. Lots.
We just had one student at Baker just break the state rushing record, 535 yards.
What?
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
my goodness. Well, we came. Casey and I came. We brought our 4-year-old and 3-year-old. Well, they may not have even been. He was probably 2. Yeah, he was 2 then. And she probably had just turned 4 because it was sometime in November. But they loved it, and it was a really electric environment. So we're going to come back this year if y'all make a playoff run, one of the schools. So we'll definitely want to come back and do it because I think it was a lot of fun, and I know that you had some really good folks. So well, good. Well, we'll be in touch with everybody, and as the legislative slog goes forward. But we think that this is gonna make a big difference. So let's go ahead and let's put some points on the board. Thanks.